Room 880. And as always, it is a pleasure having you with us again, Mr. Wick.
During the early 2000s, Derek Kolstad was a struggling screenwriter. Despite writing as many as 8 screenplays each year, he failed to get any of his work made into a production. Kolstad would eventually give up his dream until his wife convinced him to give it another go. This time he would take on a manager and wrote 60 new screenplays before eventually succeeding with 2 low-budget action films, The Chamber and The Package. Over 4 days in 2012, Kolstad wrote a spec script titled Scorn, the inspiration for which came from 2 terrible revenge movies he had watched. The script's story centered around the character John Wick, a retired hitman in his mid-60s who is forced back into his former life. Kolstad named John Wick after his grandfather. John was modelled on actors such as Clint Eastwood and Paul Newman. The script included elements such as John's long-deceased wife, his elderly dog, the Continental, Charon, Winston, and the Underworld gold coins. It had a kill count of 11 compared to the film's several dozen. John was portrayed as an underworld legend who had been absent for decades, causing younger criminals to dismiss tales of his deeds. Kolstad aimed to explore the character as the worst man in existence who finds and loses salvation through love. He had difficulty determining the incident that would lead to John's return, ultimately choosing his dog's murder over the cliché of the killing of Wick's wife and family. Kolstad focused his efforts on the first act, believing a solid opening would make later acts easier to write. The draft was influenced by a variety of action films of which Kolstad was fond, including Die Hard, revenge films, westerns, and neo-noir such as Miller's Crossing. Kolstad included black comedy because he found that levity added to the character's humanity, drawing influence from silent comedy actors such as Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin. After garnering feedback from family and agents, Kolstad made minor changes and the spec script was put out for sale. At the same time, producer Basil Iwanek was developing films for Warner Brothers through his studio Thunder Road Films. Iwanek was frustrated at not being involved beyond sourcing scripts. He wanted the autonomy to develop independent films so he could be more involved in the process. He focused on action films that could be made on relatively low budgets. Iwanek read Kolstad's spec script, appreciating its subversive tone and emotional through line, as well as the relatability and accessibility of a man seeking revenge after losing his dog and his car. Kolstad received multiple offers for the script, but his agent advised him to consider the lowest bid from Iwanek because Thunder Road Films was ready to start work immediately. The deal was completed in February 2013. Kolstad began rewrites alongside Iwanek and producer Erica Lee over 2 months. Iwanek originally envisioned older actors such as Eastwood, then 83 or Harrison Ford. In April 2013, Iwanek's friend was serving as Keanu Reeves' talent agent. Iwanek shared the script after the agent expressed Reeves' interest in pursuing a new action project. Reeves was interested in the dynamics between the real world and the underworld, and the emotional connection to John's wife. The script was sent to multiple directors, many of whom suggested expanding John's family and having them killed to drive the plot, but Kolstad opposed this idea. Others were uninterested because the idea appeared to be a generic action film. While Reeves was negotiating his involvement, he sent the script to Chad Stahelski and David Leitch, both of whom had worked with him as stunt coordinators and performers on the initial Matrix trilogy and had founded the stunt company 8711 Productions. He recommended them to choreograph or direct the action sequences, feeling their style matched the script's tone. Stahelski and Leitch were interested in the variety of action scenes, but decided that they wanted to direct the film itself. Stahelski and Leitch gained Reeves' support after pitching him their vision of an assassin thriller with a realistic tone in an otherworldly setting, in which John was an urban legend. Reeves said they impressed him with their intent to make each character memorable and thoughts on the theme of living a double life. In May, Reeves was confirmed for the lead role, and Stahelski and Leitch were to direct it. For the next 2 months, Kolstad and Reeves spent weekends rewriting the script 6 times to fit Reeves's acting style. John was made younger, and Reeves, then 49 years old, intended to portray him as a 35-year-old. Dialogue was trimmed to emphasize John's slick and tough persona. A 5-page conversation between John and the priest was trimmed to John simply responding, "Aha." They decided not to depict the impossible task that earned John his freedom, believing they should never show his life before Helen's death. Casting focused on affordable actors who were available in the 2.5 weeks before filming began. The task was eased by filming in New York City, allowing the producers to secure local actors such as Ian McShane, who only had to be present to film their scenes without traveling long distances. Character actors who could vivify Kolstad's characters were preferred. Despite little screen time, they were considered essential for providing details about John Wick's past and the underworld. Keanu Reeves was paid $2 million for his role in the film. Reeves's personal experience with bereavement, having lost his daughter in 1998 and his partner in 2001, helped him relate to John's emotional state. Describing the character, Reeves said, "John thought his old life was something he would never go back to. John thought he was stronger than he is, when really he'd been drawing that strength from his wife. I always thought of it as being a kind of Old Testament revenge story. When someone takes the things he cherishes, violence erupts and John can't temper it." Stahelski and Leitch prioritized themes of loss and humanity as fundamental aspects of John, wanting to avoid making him a cliché badass assassin. They had Reeves grow his hair and beard and dressed him in stylish suits to create recognizable visual elements. Reeves underwent 4 months of training, including several hours per day in a gym, strict diet, stretches, and choreography. Despite his previous martial arts experience, the directors aimed to craft a unique style fitting for John and had Reeves train in judo and Brazilian jiu-jitsu, as well as undergoing tactical gun training with the Los Angeles SWAT and Navy SEALs. He also learned stunt driving skills, including how to drift a car while aiming a gun. Financial issues beset the production before and during filming. Iwanek had limited assets compared to the major studios, and he considered his backers unreliable. Iwanek and his executives also lacked experience in film financing. He contemplated cancelling the project 5 days before the scheduled filming date, before his lawyer advised that he would likely be sued into bankruptcy by those involved and their guild unions. Iwanek twice deferred his own fees to cover costs and lent the costume designer his personal credit card for resources, saying he would at least earn air miles. The lack of financial security delayed filming by 2 weeks, which Iwanek described as the most difficult and stressful weeks of his career. When financing was secured, it was less than the originally promised sum. Some principal cast made salary concessions. Reeves put his own money into the project, and Stahelski and Leitch modified scenes to keep the budget low. Stahelski and Leitch drew on a broad amalgamation of their favorite films and directors for John Wick's visual style. Stahelski described the crime thriller Point Blank as a significant influence, as well as the classic visual composition of films including Le Cercle Rouge and The Return of the Pink Panther, a comedy in which hired killers pursue the central character. They also drew on Akira Kurosawa's style of holding on the composition, John Woo's use of wide shots and multi-opponent combat in films, such as the killer and spaghetti westerns by Sergio Leone. Stahelski referenced Eastwood's enigmatic portrayal in The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, emphasizing the power of unspoken backstories. He noted, "We just give you some gold coins. Where do the gold coins come from? Have your imagination do some work." The directors said the value of the gold coins was unimportant, comparing them to business cards that grant access to underworld services and inform the audience they are entering a different world. Further influences were drawn from the works of director Quentin Tarantino, graphic novels, and action films such as Police Story, Armor of God, Lethal Weapon, Die Hard, and The Matrix. Stahelski and Leitch tried to avoid rapid cuts, showing different angles and close-up shots common in many contemporary action films, which they thought often led to confusing action sequences. They committed to lengthy, single takes with a wide view of the action, reserving cuts only for covering up mistakes.
Where did the magazine reload flip come from?
That funny thing that I'm going to give total cred to Keanu.
Wow.
100%. He started doing that in the second one. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, yeah, check it out. Fuck. He started doing it. I was like, that's awesome.
It is awesome. People do that now.
Check. Yeah, it's a legit thing. They're doing a competition.
You know how crazy that is? That an actor for a film decides to come up with a thing, and it's actually a quicker way to eject a magazine.
He can do forehand and backhand. He does some trippy things. He does it with the AR too. Like you'll watch in the second one, he'll do a quick flip with the AR and he'll put it on. You're like, where the fuck did he get that?
The death of John's dog remained a point of contention in post-production for Iwanek, who believed it would alienate audiences and did not justify the number of deaths in response. But Kolstad and Reeves lobbied to retain it. Stahelski recounted Reeves telling him, "You guys wanted to make a hardcore action movie, right? You wanted to do something outside the box, right? So what's wrong? So we went back and adjusted our attitude to being unapologetic, and we just went. John Wick kills 80 guys because of a puppy. Fuck you, we're done."
No offense,
yeah.
and I don't mean to offend you,
okay,
but we're the same age. How does your body handle the kung fu 18 years later?
I love it. And I think because I love it so much, it doesn't matter. Oh, the question, recovery. You have to recover differently being older.
A little bit longer recovery time?
Yeah, you have to pay a little more attention to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, a lot of attention to that. and I can't do what I used to, but I can still do what I do. And you know, with experience comes efficiency, and so you're more efficient, but you still, but you want to dance, and you want to play, and you want to sing, and you want to
I know. I 100% know.
So
yeah, I do.
Yeah. So whatever, man.
A screening arranged for studio acquisition executives went poorly. One viewer walked out shortly after it started. Lionsgate Films emerged as the sole bidder, offering terms that included no upfront payment and a minimal release commitment, which Iwanek interpreted as meaning John Wick would go straight to home video. However, Lionsgate executives Jason Constantine and Tim Palin championed John Wick and set an October release date through its subsidiary Summit Entertainment. The John Wick title came late in production. Dissatisfied with the original title scorn, Reeves regularly referred to the film as John Wick in interviews, which Lionsgate executives equated to $7 million in free press. John Wick received generally positive reviews. On the website Rotten Tomatoes, the film has an 86% approval rating from the aggregated reviews of 219 critics and an average score of 6.9 out of 10. The consensus reads, "Stylish, thrilling, and giddily kinetic, John Wick serves as a satisfying return to action for Keanu Reeves, and what looks like it could be the first of a franchise." John Wick's popularity grew following its release on home video and streaming services, increasing support for a sequel, which in turn led to a financially and critically successful action film series, and gave Reeves his most mainstream success since the Matrix films. Rolling Stone named it the last great American action movie franchise, transforming what would normally be a B-movie into an action cinema connoisseur's dream come true.
Because it's so satisfying because they killed his puppy.
Dude,
I
thought you were going to say that. That's why we like him, is because his dog. His dog.
Bro, it's one of the fucking greatest scenes
You stole my
ever
car.
in a movie that sets up what the movie is about.